What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Gettin Salty experience. We got a new little segment today called Back in the Day. We're going to talk about things that happened back in the war years, whether it's fires or equipment or new companies established.
In the FDNY.
In the FDNY. It's going to be called Back in the Day. Our podcast and our Spotlight On has been getting real good traction, and we're getting real good feedback, so keep it up. Keep sharing it and keep subscribing, and we'll come out with more content.
You wanted to ask if we do like a question and answer?
Yes, and also we're going to be doing a question and answer segment. So if you guys have any questions, including hate mail, because we love hate mail, send it to the Gettin Salty Experience at gmail.com.
Not the.
Right, Gettin Salty Experience at gmail.com. Send your questions, and upcoming, we're going to have a question and answer. Also, next podcast...
Oh, if we use your question,
what?
We're going to send them something.
Oh,
shirts,
free stuff if we use your questions. Correct. So give us your email.
Not $500.
Not $500. I think I was drinking too much last time. Not $500. We'll send you some free shit, because we know Feynman like free shit.
If we use your question, if you hear your question on that, we're going to email you back, and then...
free stuff to follow.
We'll get your address and your name and all that good stuff, and we'll send you out some
free stuff. And
move that mic a little closer, Big Guy.
How about Pete? Good?
Hey, shalom.
Shalom Shabbat. So, and then our next guest is going to be Paul Hershagen. We have scheduled Rescue One. We call him the living legend. He's a published author. Has done many books on Rescue One and the FDNY.
Hasn't really accomplished much.
Not much, no. Hasn't seen much either. But you'll love his stories, because when we go away with him, we can sit there for hours and listen to his story. So I'm sure you're going to love it. So let's get back to the Back in the Day. And this first episode is going to be on quite possibly the most craziest day in not only the FDNY, but in the city's history. And we're going to call it The Night the Lights Went Out on Broadway. July 13th, 1977. The blackout of all blackouts. So we had some really cool information on it. We got some cool audio that Pete's going to play in a little bit. We're going to have, how long is that segment, Pete? 10 minutes?
10 minutes.
10 minutes.
10 minutes of what seems like the world is coming to an end in Brooklyn, Bushwick, where there's one fire after another, and it's a really cool segment. If you like us, we love listening to companies giving the 1075 signal, which is a working fire signal. And it's really cool. So basically...
Look, where'd that audio come from?
Yeah, so for years, I've followed, before I guess YouTube, there was always some buff sites or whatever, and I followed this...
Did you say buff?
Are we drinking coffee?
And he doesn't like the word buff. Now he's using it. I told
said
you.
buff sites.
Okay.
I didn't say, hello, everybody, you buff. But it was Rescue One Smoke Eater, and he had, one after the other, and you could, this segment that we have is from YouTube, and I think this is audio 12, so he's another guy, a good guy to follow. He's got some good old school audio, but this segment, this 10-minute segment is, if you listen to all of them, this one is really just insane.
Go watch the movie War of the Worlds, and you'll see that's what it looks like.
It's just insane.
With some of the information we're going to hit you with, you're probably not going to believe it, but it is true. So basically, July 13th, 1977, now to give you a little background, it was a very hot summer. The city was in a fiscal mess. The city was run down. It was a hot summer. What?
Almost bankrupt.
Almost bankrupt. In 1977, by the way, I think it's the busiest year on the books for the FDNY. Busiest year to date, the war year.
Runs and workers
and fires. So the city's already drained. It's a hot summer, and all the right things came together. It was like the perfect storm. It actually all started with one lightning strike at 8:37 p.m., a lightning strike at the Buchanan South substation on Hudson River. It tripped a circuit breaker, and without getting too detailed, it was actually two more lightning strikes and a couple of circuit breakers that couldn't trip. And because these stations went down, substations went down, they were feeding the load in other ways, in other
He said
directions. I said load. He said load. So they're feeding the load, and now it's forcing too much demand on other lines. And what eventually happened is 3 lightning strikes, and then the city Con Ed had to cut off power receiving from Jersey and from Long Island. Lilco Lighting Company had to shut those down, and they were basically isolated. And at 9:27, the biggest generator in Ravenswood, Queens, known as Big Alice, shut down, and with it, all of New York City got shut down. So that's a little background on how the blackout actually occurred. Just some quick stats. It was 24 hours of absolute bedlam, mayhem, looting, destruction, fires. It was crazy.
There wasn't that many fires that night.
No?
How many do you think? Pete, how many do you think?
How many do you think, Pete?
14?
Yeah.
Well, 14 multiple alarms. That's a good guess. But in the 24-hour period, there was 1,037 fires that were responded to. 1,037 in the city, the 5 boroughs.
So you can imagine what the dispatcher was dealing with and what the guys were dealing with.
So not only were they dealing with the fact that traffic lights are out, there's people looting in the street. There are a sea of people in the street. There's people throwing bottles at the firemen. It's pitch black.
I don't know how many murders there had to be. Can you imagine how many? I don't even know. Was that on there?
Well, I have a little arrest. There was... Here we go. In a 24-hour period, 3,777 people arrested. Now, that is 8 times the amount of people arrested in all of the civil rights riots of the 60s. So that's how many people were arrested for looting and for crimes and murders and all of that crap.
All right, so you want to get to the good stuff now? You want to listen to that for a couple minutes?
Yeah, what else do I got? The damage for the 24-hour period was $1.2 billion in damage in the 24-hour period.
That was in the 70s.
Actually, it was $300 million in the 70s, which is equivalent to $1.2 billion in 2017.
That's different.
That's a lot of money. At one point, Broadway in Bushwick, 35 blocks were burnt down. 35 entire blocks were burnt down. So that's the kind of absolute mayhem that was going on. On the personal side, I remember my father was a fireman. He was actually working that night, and we were all worried to death. There was me, as 7 brothers and sisters. We were all sleeping in the basement because it was the coolest place, listening to a little transistor radio, and had all candles lit and just praying for my pops because he was working that day. And if he was here today, I'd be able to interview him, but unfortunately he's not.
Hey, could I ask you something? Would this ever happen today?
Well, the last one that we had was 2007?
6 or 7, yeah.
2007, something similar, but not of this magnitude. Not like
they're able to, I guess, you would imagine that they have some
that
type of safeguards in there.
Safeguards in, and...
but you never know.
You never know. So, Pete, with that, we are going to roll what sounds like total anarchy from the Brooklyn Radio Dispatcher, and we're going to chime in.
I think this is Warren Fuchs as well, one of the best dispatchers.
Legend Warren Fuchs of Brooklyn.
Brooklyn 120.
Yep. Pete, go.
Okay, 10-4, 10-75, 1-6. 101, acting 120, taking St. John's and Utica and Rochester. 101, 10-4, we are not in the response area yet. You'll have to respond into it.
They're not even in the response area.
Trucks available, East New York, Brownsville, or Bedford-Stuyvesant.
Hold that, Pete, right there. Hold on. So that's like... He's calling for a truck.
Any
truck that's in the area. 101 is relocating to another house. I don't know who that was. 176.
I didn't know, but they were calling to send him to a fire. Yeah, so he's not even in their response.
He's not even in the area, and then the guy comes back and says, "I'm not in the area yet." He's like, "All right, well, I don't care where you are. Anyway. Just respond in. It doesn't matter, while we're even talking about it." Go ahead, Pete.
Begin Williams front tower ladder. 137, second section to Brooklyn K.
Pete, stop that there 1 second. 137 second section. Well, in the 70s, in the 60s, I think, right? 60s
yes,
and 70s,
68.
they were so busy that they would create second sections, which means that there would be a 103 and then a 103-2, right?
Well, what they would do is they would take, if 103 worked the night tour, they would have 137, let's say, would come in. 103 would respond second to them. So 137 would actually be acting 103.
103-2.
And they would, and they would respond first, and then 103. So to give those guys kind of a break.
So what they would do is pull, I think, less busy companies from out of closer to Long Island and
kind
relocate
of
them, relocate them to the busiest to give those guys a rest because they were just out of control. So really, you talk about the 70s. Even if you were in a
slower
quiet,
area,
slow house, you were going to work like 2 or 3 nights a week when they were interchanging with you.
Do it,
Pete.
37 second section. 37 second section at 1801. Can we get a 1075?
Well,
that's
another
number
one.
2. Let it go.
Okay, 1075, 1801. Okay, 158, go ahead. What's 158 has switched to Brooklyn frequency, responding to quarters of 124, with 186, and engine 152K. All right, 152, 158, and 86. You need to get out there? 10 o'clock. Okay, very good. Make sure everybody stays together there. 147. All units, stand by a second, please. I can only talk to you one at a time now. I want 157 only. 157, answer me. 157. Go down East 49th into Church Avenue. Right, they want your bucket there. Now, you're going to work as a towel ladder. 147, go into the second alarm. Division 1 wants to Brooklyn. All right, all units are on. All units to stand by, please. I got numerous 1075s here. Stand by a second. Calling engine 6.
Engine 6 from Manhattan.
Engine 6 is from the seaport in Manhattan.
Engine 6, you're acting 214. I have a working fire. Gates.
The Nut House.
Gates and Tompkins for you. 10-4. Just a Brooklyn now. Paul Almakai in a Brooklyn case. Yeah, Paul. On his pocket 555 gates. We're using all hands. We got 3 line stretch, 1 to the second floor, 1 to the third floor. Third line being in a box being stretch. We can use another truck here, Ted.
I don't got anything.
I have to see how things are going. They're running out of companies.
They run out of companies, Pete.
This is the best response.
Let's see what we can do, okay?
Stop that, Pete. So, just a quick thing. Today, if you had a line going to the first floor, the second floor, and the third floor being
You'd
stretched,
be on a third
that'd be
alarm
like
right
some
now.
ridiculous amount of, it'd be like, because now
Third
you have to
alarm.
have 2 companies on the line, and you would have minimum a second alarm. That guy's dealing with, 2 and 2.
And he's asking for extra
Just give me an
companies.
extra truck. The guy's like, we don't have anything.
All right.
We'll see what we can
see
do.
what we
It's
can
not,
do.
no pressure. There's no worry. All right, hit it, kid.
For the Brooklyn case. 4 battalion of Brooklyn, Agent K. 4 second alarm on box 774. Also, I got the 8th battalion here too, K. What battalion do you have there? You have the 8th battalion? That is correct. I'm on a second alarm by orders of PC Lovett, 4 battalion K. I do have a second alarm box 774. Be advised, you have a team that was sent in there also. You're aware of that, right? That is correct. I got ladder 108, ladder 140, engine 23, and engine 210.
So, Pete, that was Kevin's
for my
dad. That's his father's firehouse.
I didn't pick that up the first time I listened to that, actually.
140 and 291.
Yeah.
So,
Keep rolling.
Yep.
Here we go.
On his arrival. Report to the exposure, 3 side case. Looking at 124? 124. He wants to go in on Lafayette Avenue. Is that correct? That's on Lafayette from through the rear of the fire building, the exposure 3 side. 124, 10-4. 37, you have satellite 1 responding. Would you have any particular location for him at this time?
All 4 floors.
Out the side, we're detecting exposure number 2, which is separated by 20 feet. The fire showing all rear windows. Forward door.
All rear windows.
Corners over the store. All hands are heavily engaged. 146, Kate. Taking the phone alarm for 678. It's reported a building, DeKalb and Marcy.
Here comes another one.
Rider 146, 10-4. And Tompkins. Have all units come into the block, okay? Taking building. Alright, what response would you need? We have 2 and 2 coming in. Okay, give me what you have.
They only got 2 and 2
Okay,
coming
you've got 2 and 2. Do you want a 1075 on the street for? Now this time, Kay. 10-4, all units on 678, respond in. It's a building fire, and respond in on DeKalb between Marcy and Tompkins. Units on 678, respond in on DeKalb between Marcy and Tompkins, a vacant building fire. 2342 is the time. Okay, your second truck is a tower ladder. It's 146, acting 108. All units responding in on 678 box, switch to channel 6 on the walkie-talkies. Units on 678, use channel 6 on your walkie-talkies.
I got a question.
Go.
So how are these guys maintaining any sense of order during this?
When you say you guys, who? The chief or the
The
dispatcher?
chief, the dispatcher, you guys too. Like, what's going on
the
there?
dispatcher, right here, he has to keep track of not only the companies that are assigned to those areas. He's got 146 acting 108. He's got 101 acting, 124. Whatever they were doing, it's tough to keep track of, especially when you have multiple jobs in a row. I mean, it happens once in a while now in the city, but where relocators catch jobs and it's a little bit tough. But I can't even imagine. That's pretty, and that's just one borough.
Yeah. This is Brooklyn now.
That's just
You have
Brooklyn.
The other 4 boroughs, I
think the Bronx comes in on this towards the end of this snippet here.
Here's the other thing, Pete, that people don't realize. With all of these fire trucks racing all over the place, you have to worry about crossing an intersection and not getting plowed by another company that's flying to another job.
Did that happen?
Oh, I don't know if it happened that night, but just those 3 jobs that he just said are all kind of in the same area because that was 108's area, 146, 124.
So it's like Bushwick. It's Bushwick area, 108, 124, Bushwick area. So
North
you got
Williamsburg.
companies flying all over the place, man, not expecting,
coming out of there.
Yeah, coming out of nowhere.
Coming out of nowhere is right.
So we think this is not really possible today, something like this. Or did 9/11 prove that it is?
Oh, I mean, that's...
9/11, more or less, people were going to one place, where these fires, they're here.
I think the second blackout was pretty crazy. I don't know. I don't think it was to this magnitude, but I don't remember it exactly. But
I don't remember the fires personally. I remember working that day and then coming home and nothing was open. I mean, the only thing that was going were pizza places because the ovens were open.
Yeah.
So, of course, I'm a New Yorker, right? We were all eating pizza all day. But I don't remember chaos. Not at all.
This was chaos. This was, the looting was out of control. And, they're trying to fight fires and people are walking out with,
you're gonna have pictures.
TVs on their shoulders.
We got
You're
a
going to
ton
play
of
some pictures.
You're going to post
with that later.
You watch that.
Wow.
Do it. Run it.
Hit it.
3-4. Okay, I got 3 vacant buildings, 4 brick, 2-0 by 8-0, fully involved, and through the roof, okay?
There you go.
3 buildings. No,
Okay, there's 3 buildings, and your response is 3 and 2. And the police department are bringing in cars from other boroughs, and they will deal with you as soon as possible.
What do you say? The police department's bringing in cars for their protection?
10-4. All units in Brooklyn, please 10-6 relay.
that's hilarious.
So the police cars were backing up the fire department because why? People were
looting, throwing bottles.
Yeah, people were throwing
bricks.
Stuff,
Crazy.
If they were starting the fires, they wanted the fires, so guys...
the main reason for these fires, besides the lightning, were looters, yeah?
Looters started all the fires.
Yeah,
all the
fires. To do with
lightning. No, the lightning was what brought the electric down. The looters is... And here's another thing, Pete, that the reason that these years were so busy, 77, 70... The city had a program, okay? If you were burnt out of your apartment, they put you up in a brand new apartment. So the firemen would pull up a lot of times, and people would be sitting on the curb with all their
luggage
belongings,
and everything ready
with
to go.
their luggage ready to go,
All
because
the valuables.
they set their apartment's on fire.
Wow, way to scam it.
Yeah, man.
New York, baby.
Almost like if you get arrested and for something and they let you back out, the next day.
Give you a free
You
cell
think that
phone.
might be something that they would learn from? Maybe.
You mean
I don't want to get political. Next. Do it.
Response C and 6. Do you have a second alarm? 439 there. Did you receive?
Can you accept the tickets and a rundown case?
I'll give you the rundown. It's a fully involved vacant building. It's at 6th Street and Avenue C. You got engine 5.5, engine 1.6, engine 3. That's engine 7.4, acting engine 3.
Those are all Manhattan companies.
You got ladder 3, ladder 6, ladder 2.
This might be Manhattan now on here.
Battalion
Yeah?
6.
Yeah, I think it might be.
And additional engines, you have engine 3 and engine 8. That's the original engine 3 and engine 8, okay?
We got any time?
The time is 0149, okay?
So that's what.
We're using all hands for a fire at 905 Bruckner Boulevard.
That's
it's
Bronx.
a 5-brick floor by 6-0 vacant. The explosions at 1st Street, 2 is semi-attached. 2 is a similar attached, occupied. 3 is a rear yard. 4 is a detached, legal it. The following units have a special call to Manhattan. I'll be relocated into Manhattan. They're going via the Manhattan Bridge. Going up the Brooklyn Bridge. 161, 163, 79, and 81.
Engine 163, respond to the
Those are
code of
Staten
the
Island
Company
companies
1
coming to
on
Manhattan.
31 Street between 7 and 8 Avenue.
So for the non-New Yorkers here, explain the boroughs a little bit, because we're all talking about Brooklyn fires
5
in
boroughs:
Bushwick,
Brooklyn, Queens, Manhattan, Bronx, Staten Island.
and they're all quite separate by bridges and water.
Correct.
And so for people to go to Brooklyn fires if they're from Staten Island,
Well, they were just calling Staten Island companies into Manhattan.
Well, back then, Staten Island wasn't as populated
Right.
as Brooklyn and the Bronx. Even Queens wasn't as populated. Now, it's a little bit different, and they have more companies in Staten Island. But it's still not to the capacity of Brooklyn. I mean, Brooklyn, I think, is the 8th largest city or 7th largest city in the United States. Yeah. Even though it's
Right.
part of New York City,
Right.
if you took that and stuck it somewhere, it would be, that it's that
Are
populated.
you just pulling that out of nowhere?
No, I know that, actually.
so these guys were so desperate that they were calling for companies way out of, miles and miles away. Like,
Oh, yeah.
like how far away would you say on
Staten
average?
Island, 163 engine to go to Manhattan?
Yeah.
That's a ways.
Yeah.
15 miles?
Yeah, but in traffic, New York craziness, blackout.
Well, that's why I
madness.
think he just said something like take the Manhattan Bridge or Brooklyn Bridge. So that
I'm
might
sure
have been
they
the
had
only
the cops
right. They had
shutting down
exactly.
certain roadways for, like they did on 9/11. They had certain roadways that were
Tunnels.
only open to
Right, you couldn't go through
emergency
any of that
vehicles.
stuff.
Right?
Correct.
Got another minute here.
67, 31 Street, 6 and 7 Avenue, okay? And 4.
1348. We're using all hands are heavily engaged. Energy companies are pushing fire from the 111th Street side to the 112th Street side. Most of the visible fires are darkened down. Some companies in the process of overhauling.
That's a commercial.
Probably will hold DC Stankerall 4th Division.
That's pretty funny.
No particulars. The third alarm companies are engine 39, engine 34, engine 54, and tower ladder 12, tower ladder 1-2. Battalion 2 is also on the scene. That's Battalion 6 and Battalion 2 are there now, okay?
Do you have a time on a third and a second take?
No time on a second. The third alarm is 0214.
Engine 5. Okay.
Hold on, Battalion 1-2. Engine 5.
Got a 7-5, about 422, right?
1075.
That's it. Yeah, that's it. I think.
Did we miss a part? Because I thought that they had a recall on that night.
Well, I mean, I think in the beginning of that, he does mention something about that.
Yeah.
But, that was happening. That could have happened. If that thing happened so far, what time was that? 9 o'clock? That was going on at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, some of the times are like midnight, 2,400 hours, 2,300 hours, and then 200 hours.
So I was going to say, for me, like listening to those things, the best part of the job, right, is you get a phone call or you get a run from a phone call for fire, right? Mm-hmm. So everybody's on the rig, and now you're listening to the radio, waiting for, if you're not first due, for the company that's going to get there first due to give, that 1075.
Which now, as opposed to in the 70s, now they tone it out once the 1075 comes. Boop, boop,
right,
boop.
so you're going to hear...
We're going to play a day in Brooklyn, a busy day in Brooklyn in August 2018, which is by today's standards a busy day. Not like the pandemonium that was in 77, but there are things that you can listen to when you hear the dispatcher that we used to listen to as we were listening to the radio or as we were responding in. Like you can hear the phones ringing in the back. If you hear a lot of phones ringing in the back, that means that they're getting a lot of phone calls that almost likely this is going to be a job. So as the dispatcher is talking, you'll hear the phones ringing off the hook in the background. You'll hear him say, getting a lot of phone calls and loading up the box. Second source.
Second source is like,
second source means somebody called and now somebody
else called. So you get that, you're just amped up.
Yeah.
And
not only second source, but if they get a load of calls and they say they're loading up the box, 9 times out of 10, either the squads or the rescues were already on the road because we're listening. And if it sounds like a phone alarm, like keywords, phone alarm, fire, we would start out on the road, get going towards that box so we can make it in.
So then you'll hear whatever company, I don't know which engines are on here, but you'll hear a company come. So now you know who's first due. It's triple deuce, 222. So now you're waiting as you're driving, you're waiting for that engine to get on the radio to the dispatcher. And, you're going to hear engine 222 to Brooklyn, and he's going to say, go ahead, 222, and he's going to say 1075 the box, 3-story frame, fire on the 3rd floor. And then you're going to hear the dispatcher give the 3 tones, boop, 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 and he's going to repeat the address. He's going to repeat that it's a 1075. He's going to give the height and size up of the building, where the fire is, and then he's going to call the chief and basically give him all the information that...
So each run is almost like its own little movie. You get out, you have the build-up, the tones, the excitement, and then you listen to the rest of the fire, how it plays out. It's almost ups and downs. Maybe they'll give a second. Maybe they'll
The worst thing that you could have is a phone call for fire. You turn out, and then you get a second source, and now you're going through the streets, and you think it's going to be, you're 90% it's going to be a job, and you're amped up, and then you hear, engine 222 to Brooklyn. Go ahead, 222. 1020 the box, which is slow everybody down. It doesn't look like much, and then it's just like this exhale of bleh.
In which in the future podcast or actually segment we're going to do, I have gone on and found different signals given from all over the country.
Back in the
Baltimore, what else did I get? Boston, Chicago, and we're going to listen to how they give our 1075. So we're going to compare them. And then I'm trying to find out actually 2 times that Lou and I gave a 1075 on the radio, so you can see if we sound like we're all nervous or we're
calm as a cucumber.
We're calm as a cucumber.
Well,
so Pete, let's roll that one. The 4 fires in an hour. It was 4 fires in an hour. I told you, Pete. Rescue 2. Right? How many fires a day? 3
Refer
fires
to our video on Rescue 2.
Refer to our video on Rescue 2.
Spotlight
People
on.
don't believe me. 3 fires in a 24.
Located in the comment sections below. The link will be linked.
The shameless plug.
Yes.
Do it.
All Brooklyn Box 351, 372 Wallback Street between Harrison Avenue and Swoop Avenue. Smoke on the 3rd floor.
So that's a phone alarm for smoke.
372 Wallback Street, Harrison Avenue, Swoop Avenue. Smoke on the 3rd floor.
So the S word, not the F word. Not the fire word.
35 Battalion of Brooklyn K. Battalion 35. Can you get 1012 for 351? We're going to be delayed, K.
1012 means he wants the first arriving units to give him a signal right away. Sorry, Pete.
No worries. Go ahead. Say that again.
So 1012 means the chief's going to give that over there. He needs the first arriving units
To let him know
just to let him know because he's coming from a distance.
So a boots on the ground kind of situation. Eyes on the ground.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Source 374 Wallabout. Smoke on the 3rd floor. Brooklyn to ladder 108. 108. Received both 372 and 374 Wallabout.
Now I got a second source.
84. At the box.
84 means he's at the box.
Units in on 351 box. 1012. 1012 on 351 for battalion 35. Back to 290 at 114. Battalion 35.
Here it is.
1075 the box.
Hide occupancy location of the fire.
3-story wood frame. I'll get back to you with the particulars.
We need a corrected address.
I'll book a standby.
Brooklyn at 1075 to box 351. 372 Wallabout Street, Harrison Avenue and Troop Avenue. Bars on the top floor. 119.
Wallabout right. You want to set up box?
119 redirected into the 1075. It will be designated as a fast truck. Bars on the top floor of a 3-story frame. 119.
Hey, Pete, hold on 1 second. What's pretty funny is, too, a lot of times if this box is out or something like that, you're going to always hear on the radio guys trying to get
On the box.
Get available.
That actually happens a lot in this.
Yeah.
111 truck says, we're available. Negative, stay in service.
Well,
we're available.
They
Negative,
could be
stay in
going on an elevator. They could be off the box. That would be their first or second to box. They could be on an elevator. Right. They could be on a gas leak. So they're going to call the dispatcher and say, hey, listen, you want us to take us off this elevator that's stuck or a water leak and stick us on the job. And you hear that. I mean, it's such a common
happened
thing.
A couple of times here, guys trying to jump on the box.
Yeah, so go ahead.
I got to ask one thing. How do you guys make any sense of what's going on with the radio? Because as a civvy who's never really dealt with this kind of chatter, how do you guys learn to cut through?
You just get used to it. It's just
well, you got to know the signals. That's why he's telling you what the signals are.
Yeah, so 1084 means you arrive at the box. 10-8 means you're taking up from the box. You're available for runs, but from the rig.
The only thing you want to hear is 1075.
That's it, man.
Working fire. That's what you want to hear. So when you hear 1075, it's beep, beep, beep. Right. I forget what it is in other cities, but when we do that other podcast, we'll lay it out.
1075 box 351, 372 Wallabout Street, Harrison Avenue to Troop Avenue. Bars on the top floor of the 3-story frame.
35 to Brooklyn.
35 battalion.
Correct address is 374 Wallabout. 374.
Alright, cut 4. Be advised, we do not have SIDS for that address. And ladder 119, 119 will be a fed truck. 35 battalion.
3510-4.
Pete, hold on 1 second.
Brooklyn 2.
So SIDS, the dispatcher just said he doesn't have any SIDS for that address. SIDS is Critical Information Dispatch System. So basically what happens is any building that we have that you go out on that you feel like there's pertinent information you would need to know about that building at 3 o'clock in the morning, if somebody who's working there that doesn't know that building, that information will come up when that address comes up. So whether you have,
blind elevator
shafts, you have
something dangerous,
fortified doors in the back, you have fencing on the roof, wherever the fire escapes are, all that information is what the size of the building is. If they have
it's critical information that
just
they can tell
information
you,
you would need to know that in case you might know the building because it's in your area, but if somebody is working in the firehouse that day that's responding to that box that he doesn't know the building, he's going to get that information.
This is a little off topic, but not really. What happens when you're responding to like a secure building? Like if it's a federal building with some kind of critical information or something like that.
Well, I don't know, but we got the keys.
Well, I'll give you. We have the keys.
You guys have total access?
I'll give you a quick story, bro. When I was in 16 truck, we were directly across the street from the Russian consulate, and they would never let us in the building. Never, until they had a big fire in the building. And right from quarters, I'm talking about like right across the street. They put the aerial up, went through the window, and there was nothing they could do about it, bro. That was it. So they would never let us in. But when there was a fire, bro, they let us in the building.
We can get into any building.
Right. You guys got the keys.
And we used to have FBI in the firehouse all the time, just for hours, staring at the Russian consulate. Yeah, man.
Really?
Yep.
Oh, wait, you got to tell a story about that. They would
Yeah.
and what did they tell you? Did they give you any juice or what?
Nah. They would just come in and watch them.
Son of a
Hours at
bitch.
a time.
All right.
Hit it.
Rescue 2.
Rescue 2.
Brooklyn to ladder 104.
Ladder 104.
104 at this time. Remain in service.
They just got the wah,
Brooklyn Division
104.
1-1.
Division 1-1.
1-1, the corrected address will be 374 Wallabout. 5 in the top floor of a 3-story frame. No SIDS information for that address. change in your fast truck, it will be ladder 119. They have been notified. 11. 114, thank you. Battalion 34.
Box 351, we're using all hands for a fire on the third floor of a 3-story occupied multiple dwelling, 25 by 16, with an address of 374 Wallabout. Exposures are as follows. One is the street, two is a 6-story multiple dwelling, 3 is unknown, 4 is a 3-story multiple dwelling. We have 2 lines stretched. One line in operation. Trucks are opening up. Fire is awful.
So, Pete, one other thing. So, that's the aide. That's the chief's aide for the 3-5. Every battalion, when there's a fire, when they give the report back to the dispatcher, says basically the same exact thing. Obviously, it's different for whatever building it is, but he's going to tell you the size of the building, how many lines are in operation, trucks are opening up. He's going to go what the exposure, where the fire is, what the exposures are. We do 1, 2, 3, and 4. I know other places do A, B, C, D. And then he's going to say what the fire is at, whether it's doubtful, meaning they're not sure. It could go either way. Probably will hold would mean that we're going to hold the present assignment. That it looks like we're going to get a hold of this thing, and we're going to keep everybody here, and then under control. So hit it.
35. Time of that report is 1150. Your duration time is 10 minutes.
35 simple.
Brooklyn to Battalion 35.
Battalion 35.
Going to call now for one of the exposures. The call was unsure of the address, but they reported a fire in the building next door to the 1075.
35 tempo.
Division 11 received that report.
Fire in the building next door.
Affirmative. Also, did you get that whole progress report? Brooklyn all hands to work, box 351, the address 374 Wallabout Street. Harrison Avenue to Scoop Avenue. Find the top floor of a 3-story.
And Pete, they'll do that with the tones. When the battalion comes on and says we're using all hands, they'll hit the tones and go through that same scenario, basically saying what they're using and, just so that everybody in the borough knows what's going on.
So the tones are really key to what you guys do now.
If you hear tones, because then you could even listen up. Maybe if it's getting away from them and you're the next guys to go, you could start to get ready.
So I always thought tones were just kind of like it's like when you're cutting off and you're like, you're out, you're over.
Tones are like, listen up.
Okay. So it's an alarm for the alarm.
It's this.
Yeah.
Right.
Boing. Next.
25 by 60. All hands working, Brooklyn box 351, 374 Wallabout Street between Harrison Avenue and Scoop Avenue. 5 in the top floor of a 3-story frame.
Battalion 35 to Brooklyn.
Battalion 35.
Brooklyn, can I have an extra engine and an extra truck on this box?
That's what, stand by for the identity. Brooklyn to Battalion 35.
Battalion 35.
Additional engine 221, additional truck, ladder 111.
35 tempo.
Brooklyn to ladder 103. One on Brooklyn box 1736.
Here we go.
Street.
Hear the phones in the background?
Do you hear the phones ringing in the background?
Is it getting spicy now?
Possible.
They're getting calls, it sounds like, so.
Gotcha.
In Atlantic Avenue and Fulton Street. Fire reported on the second floor. Telephone alarm box 1736 on Barrett Street between Atlantic Avenue and Fulton Street. Fire reported on the second floor.
Love that
Telephone
sound.
alarm, Brooklyn box 953. 720 St. Mark's Avenue, Nostrand Avenue to New York Avenue. Fire reported the second floor.
That's two different calls.
Two different addresses.
Box 953, 712 St. Mark's Avenue, Nostrand Avenue to
Two
New
different
York
boxes.
Avenue. Fire on the second floor. This information available upon request. Brooklyn ladder 103. 103. Are you available? 1736 is the box.
Never heard of that
Address
company.
Now 117 Bradford, Atlantic to Fulton. Fire on the second floor. 103. 103, 10-4. Ladder 176. 176. This time remaining service. 176. We're at the Broadway Junction right now. Stand by. Brooklyn ladder 103.
Uh-oh.
See that? Stop a second. They may not be at the Broadway Junction.
Allegedly.
But they're telling you. We're at the
Allegedly.
Broadway Junction. We're closer. So.
Hey, now it's spicy.
So,
and
yeah.
but you got to explain that to everyone because I don't think people realize it's a race to get to. You want to
especially
be
in Brooklyn.
there.
It's a race, bro. Like that even sounds like a 176 box, right? Bradford.
Well, it's
actually 175 box.
Yeah,
right?
that's only a block up from their quarters.
Yeah. So they're going in. 103 is assigned on the box, and 176 saying, "Oh, well, we're at the Broadway Junction."
Well, 103 became available. 103 was at another box. They became available. He told 176 to stay in service. 176, of course, didn't say, okay, 10-4. He said,
We're closer.
We're right here, and now he's probably going to go back and say 103. Where are you?
Oh, we're here. We're on.
And he's going to
at the box.
Well, if he doesn't say 1084, if he gives them where they are, he might tell them to stay in service. So I don't even remember if I heard this. Go ahead.
Your location.
We're on Skank Avenue.
Stay in
Service. 176, continuing.
76, 10-4.
935, your message.
Unfortunately, be advised that now we have 3-line stretch and 2 in operation.
3-line stretch 2 operating. 10-4. That's at 1154. Duration is 14 minutes. Brooklyn to engine 235. Brooklyn at 235. 235. Responding.
10-4. Apartment number?
Brooklyn at 249.
249.
You got the run.
10-4. House responding.
10-4. 235, no address. They get a second call reporting smoke on the second floor.
10-4.
Brooklyn to the 4-4 battalion.
4-4.
Second source, 117 Bradford at Lake to Fulton.
4-4,
1155, dispatcher. Ladder 175.
176, no way delay to the drill.
Brooklyn to ladder 176.
76, 10-4, 84.
That's the boss, 115. Ladder 176.
176, 175 coming in off Atlantic.
Brooklyn to ladder 175.
175.
Responding off Atlantic Avenue.
10-4, 1084.
That's the boss, 115.
The Brooklyn area.
Battalion 38.
75, box 553, 6-story MD. We'll get back to you with additional information.
Another one.
Brooklyn A 1075 for box 953, 720 St. Mark's Avenue. Nostrand Avenue to New York Avenue. Fires in a 6-story multiple dwelling. 1075 box 953, 720 St. Mark's Avenue. Nostrand to New York. Fires on the second floor. Telephone alarm box 1024, 586 Albany Avenue. Midwood Street to Rutland Road. Fire reported in its store. Telephone alarm, Brooklyn box 1024, 586 Albany Avenue.
Now, isn't that close to 103, Albany?
No, it's like by Rescue 2 over there.
Oh, okay.
I got a question. It's dispatchers, right? Mm-hmm. Are these guys firefighters as well?
Civilians.
Civilians.
Yep.
And so they just have to have the picture of what's going on in their minds,
A
right?
lot of these guys are doing this for 20.
Yeah. A lot of these guys are, should I say the B word?
No, don't say the B word.
Say it.
They're
Buffs.
A lot of them are buffs. They love the fire
that
service.
should have
which
been
is
our
good. Makes it
drink
easier
word.
for us, right? When they're into their job, when people love their job,
Yeah.
it makes it even better.
Well, they're helping you guys get.
Well,
to
that
the
one
scene.
guy, there's usually 2 guys, there's similar to this, 2 guys on the mics responding. So if one guy is handling something, you know, he could be off the mic and another guy can jump on, like for another phone call. You hear those 2 1075s back to back. You hear the phone ringing in the background like nonstop. That's, you know, when you hear for a phone call for fire, that's all you want to hear when you're responding.
And where are these dispatchers? Somewhere at a call center?
Yeah, every borough has a dispatch
I think
station.
now they're all in one bar. I don't know.
maybe
They
they
keep
are.
changing it.
I don't know.
Hit it.
Street to Rutland Road, fire in a store. Brooklyn to ladder 105.
Ladder 105, fair shot case.
As reported on the second floor, you have the SID.
10-4.
Announcement SID information, 1075, box 953, 720 St. Mark's Avenue.
So that address they gave the job
Store.
for, that address they just gave the job for, has SIDS, critical information. So now he's going to hit the tones for the companies
Everybody
responding,
listen up.
for everybody to listen. And, you know, this way, if there's any information that's pertinent for those guys. So listen, I don't even know what this is, so let's hit that.
75 by 100, class 3. Cell sites on roof, power shutoffs in basement. Only one enclosed stairwell in building. Repeating the SIDS information, 1075, box 953, the address 720 St. Mark's Avenue. Say, multiple dwelling, 6 stories, 75 by 100, class 3. Cell sites on roof, power shutoffs in the basement. Only
See,
one
Pete,
enclosed
stop
stairwell.
for a minute. As a civilian or somebody out of the loop, what's critical about what he gave? What jumps out to you?
Power shutoffs in the basement.
That, and most of all, cell sites
On the roof.
which means heavy weight on the roof. So if
can't-
there's any fire,
Sometimes it's tough to cut the roof.
cut the roof, or you got to be careful if there's fire on the top floor. You don't want all that weight on the top floor now, because now you're worried about a collapse. So that is something that would be critical.
So that first, it's not the first man, right? That's on the roof, or is it? We were talking about that on the.
There's 2 guys going to the roof.
Okay, and those are the guys usually you don't like. You send them to the
Yeah, right. And he said class 3 is non-fireproof. So it's a non-fireproof building.
right.
Which means it'll burn.
It'll burn.
So we don't send
we
those guys
love
to the
class 3.
Somebody goes to the roof every time.
But in this case, right, when they have a SIDS on the roof, you know, SIDS info on the roof, and there's a
He's going to
heavyweight,
confirm that for the chief.
and the
He's
guy's
still going up.
the guy's going up no matter what.
Oh, yeah.
Gotta see
Holy
what's up there.
smokes!
Hit it.
Holy smokes!
Brooklyn Battalion 38.
38.
38, ladder 105 is your fast truck that been notified.
Feedback 38.
38. Ladder 105, your fast truck.
105, fast truck.
Ladder 234.
234.
Yeah, there's second source for your box.
234 to Brooklyn Urgent.
234, go with the urgent.
Two-story commercial, we got smoke showing. Could you give us a 1075?
10-4. Brooklyn at 1075 for box 1024, the address 586 Albany Avenue, Midwood Street to Rutland Road, fires in the two-story commercial.
How many is that now?
1075.
3 or 4.
Is that 3 or 4, Pete? This is an hour.
I think that's 3, and because we have about, I don't know, another 7 minutes on this video. But I'm just watching you guys here.
Yeah.
You guys look like you're ready to go.
We're excited. Can't get it out of you.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, you're bouncing in your chairs.
Yeah.
I like
I can
that
listen
tone,
to these
man.
all day long.
Yeah, I could
told
listen
you,
to
it's
it
like
too.
a little mini movie. You got the build-up, listening, boop, and then the action.
Brooklyn box 1024, the fire's at 586 Albany Avenue, Midwood Street to Rutland Road, fires in a two-story commercial. Open to the 4-1 battalion. 4-1, ladder 170, your fast truck. Both the normally assigned rescue and squad companies are unavailable, but send these special calls should you require.
4174. To the Bronco, we're sending.
Is that rescue 2?
2274.
Rescue into Albany Avenue, tickets on the way.
111 truck to Brooklyn.
Ladder 111.
We're available.
10-8 from the old hands. I need a final job.
This time just remain in service. We're going to be 4-4.
Box 1736, reason 2 and 2 for a small kitchen fire. We need EMS on scene.
1-1 standby. Brooklyn to battalion 38. Your message.
The fires in Department 2G. Primary searches are in progress.
10-4. Division 1-1.
Division 1-1 at box 351. We're going to go probably will hold. We had fire in between 372 and 374 Wallabout. Trucks have opened up.
You cut off after the truck's opening up, 1-1.
It probably will hold. Fires in between the buildings of 372 and 374. Do you need it for another box?
I just want to say, listening to the two different situations, maybe 77 was crazier, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Because the vibe of the city
no
was
doubt.
nuts. But these guys, the way they're handling it is much smoother and more organized.
Yeah,
I mean, do you guys feel that
it was
way?
more chaotic then, bro, back then. I mean,
You're catching that other one at 1 o'clock in the morning.
Okay.
That's already, there's companies all over the place, and it's, it's
I was
countless.
listening to one from the Blackout, and the guy was like, we see a giant fireball down the block. We're going to go investigate. So it was total chaos. I mean, these were 4 fires in an hour.
Gotcha.
But that was like,
Well, this guy had,
War of the Worlds,
who
bro.
was this guy who did this one?
this is New York City fire audio.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's another guy, if you want to listen to FDNY jobs, he's another guy.
Yeah, and he keeps updating the current.
Because those jobs are pretty much all done already,
Yeah.
for the most part. You could just tell by the way they're talking. You're using 2 and 2. It's probably will hold. Rescue took up from the other
Right, but
job.
what do you hear? You hear probably will hold, and what's the next thing you hear? Rescue 2 are available. You got another
right.
job for us?
Well,
so
that's
once
what-
one's under control, Rescue 2 is ready to go to another job. So
So those jobs are all pretty much...
same thing. I think you hear Squad 252 jump off for one job and go to the other job.
All right. Continue to roll.
Yeah, yeah.
Battalion 3.
Yeah, we need an extra truck and an extra engine.
10-4. We'll go with the old hand. We're going to ladder 111.
See, now we're going to put on the box
into old
anyway.
hand 720. It's going to be
America's
7...
truck.
953 is the box. 720 St. Mark's Avenue. Those prints in
So
New
is
York.
that the 4?
Truck
Is that
above
4
the
jobs?
111.
I think that's it.
Stand by. Brooklyn to Rescue 1. Rescue 1 remain in service.
Switching back to the city.
That's 4. Brooklyn at Division 1-1.
1-1.
You're available, right? Into 1075, box 1024. A store fire, 586 Albany.
Yeah, that's
Midwood
the
to
4th job.
1-1.
So Pete, you can wind this down. So that's what we just wanted to show you. A busy day in Brooklyn. Current day, pretty much 2018. But as you can see, nowhere near the devastation and pandemonium of July 13th, 1977.
Do you think we'll ever have another July 13th, 1977? Do you think it could ever be like that again?
Not busy?
Yeah.
I don't see why not. Depending
I mean,
on what
anything can
happens in
happen.
the city. Anything can happen in the city,
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I would think my assumption would be that the level of equipment, more companies, more organization, by this point, it would be a lot less damaging.
Maybe.
Or more controlled,
Right.
rather.
And, you know, it seems to go, too, with the economy. When the
I was
economy
gonna
is
say.
good and people have money, you know, they're not burning down the buildings. Where people are happy. There's not that much, that many disgruntled people that are...
Plus, we don't have...
aren't looters, but they're always... You can look at Baltimore when they were looting, you know, there's always going to be looters.
We don't have many areas in the 70s and the 80s and even parts of the 90s that were, you know, really run down in New York City are all, you know, gentrified. It's all, you know, it's not... Can I say it?
Ghetto.
It's not.
How dare you?
It's not like that anymore. So those areas that were super busy, you know, they still catch work, but it's not like it was. So I don't know if
And
those
looking
that
at
time
house
will
in
ever
the
happen.
70s, did you have a smoke alarm in your house? Probably not. I don't
Yeah, you
remember.
didn't have cell phones. Changed a lot of
Yeah,
stuff.
cell phones, people call quick. So I might not get to the, you know, the amount of fires and the total pandemonium that it was, but you could get something close to that. So, but you can hear on the audio from today's back to that day, which was, you know, 1,037 fires in 24 hours is crazy.
Yeah, we don't have. I don't think we have that many fires in a year. I don't know. I'm just saying. I have no idea.
That's a lot. You know, 35 blocks in Bushwick totally burnt down. 35 blocks. So that'll put a wrap on this new segment, which is
Back in the day.
Back in the Day. We got another podcast coming out next week and some more other good stuff coming out. Some small segments, some podcasts.
Do another spotlight on.
We're going to do another spotlight. I think we're going to do a Manhattan company this time, right? An older Manhattan company.
Very old.
Very old. Been around a while. I think, what, Quintachingo? We're going 55?
Cinquanta Cinque.
Oh, whatever. Whatever that Italian talk is.
And then we can stop over by Little Italy. You know,
Little
get a
Italy, have a
meatball
little
palm
thin
or
crust
something.
pizza or meatball palm.
I'm just saying.
Right. Remember to subscribe to the channel and share it. We got to get the audience bigger, larger. Don't forget to check us out on gettingsaltyapparel.com for some cool shirts. Get on our Instagram, our Facebook, and that's about it.
Spread the word.
Spread the word. Paul Harshagen coming. We have a part 2 with Hank Mole. Crusty old Hank's got a lot more fire stories he wants to lay out for us, so he'll be next as well. And who else? Do we get that other guy who was in the Bronx?
Oh, we're going to work on
time?
him. I'm going to work on
He
him.
was in his 80s, but he was there doing the war years.
I'm going to work on him.
We'll wheel him in too. We'll get him on. We'll wheel Hank back on. We'll make sure he takes his Geritol. We'll get him early in the morning before he gets out for the early bird special.
All right.
All right?
All right,
So
stay
until the
safe
next
out
time,
there.
peace. Stay low and go.